Thank you all for joining us today. My name is James Gore. Probably we've seen each other before on this Zoom. I wish it was in person. I'm a County Supervisor for District 4 for Sonoma County. And I want to welcome you to today, to this webinar. And before we get started, just a quick message for our Spanish viewers for translation services. Muy buenas tardes y bienvenidos a la sesión informativa. Esta reunión es sobre un sitio de vivienda de emergencia en el Centro de Administración del Condado de Sonoma. Si ustedes están participando por Zoom y quiere escuchar la presentación en español, busque o oprima el globo que indica interpretación y seleccione el idioma español. Muchas gracias. More than a month has passed since the County of Sonoma and all of us have opened the emergency shelter site that's at our government center here. And we have 70 individuals who are currently calling this place home. This is the second in a series of webinars that we have committed to hosting to not just keep you updated, but make sure that there's a give and take and a flow of information. And I want to make sure that this is relevant. I want to thank you, anybody who's joining us for this journey into imperfect, relentless progress. We are doing our best to get done what needs to in our community and to take account and responsibility for our unsheltered brothers and sisters. And at the same time, if that's impacting you and your lives around the site, the commitment is to continue to look at your emails, continue to get your calls, continue to do the outreach, and continue to improve. So I want to thank you. I've had a lot of side conversations with folks from the surrounding neighborhoods, and you know, the goal is to continue to do better. And I want to thank you for your emails and your photos and your voices. So as we've done with previous meetings, this webinar today will be recorded and posted on the county's Homeless Services Division website for future reference. Just a reminder that we also have a list of frequently asked questions about the emergency shelter sites and recordings of our last two webinars. Happy to be joined today by my colleagues, my peers, Supervisor Chris Coursey, who's our chair this year of the Board of Supervisors. Also Dave Kiff, our director of the Homeless Services Division in the Department of Health Services. Dave will be providing an update on the site. And we also have Tina Rivera, the director of our Department of Health Services, available to answer questions. And Matt Lilligren from our county counsel's office and a variety of others. Paul Gullickson, I want to thank you for always being here with us, our head of communications for the county, and serving as a backstop and also the forward lead for all these issues. So passing it over to my colleague, Supervisor Chris Coursey, and then we'll get back to the agenda. You're still on mute, Supervisor.
Yeah, I'm new at this. Thank you, James. More than a month of this shelter being open, I just have to thank the community, our staff, all those who've been involved in providing a safe, dry place to live for 70 people for the past month. Most of them did not have that before this shelter opened. And we know that providing this kind of temporary housing, plus the wraparound services that go with it, is the first step to getting to our ultimate goal, which is helping people get back into permanent housing, get back on track in their lives. So as I was last time, I'm here to listen, to hear any concerns, questions, issues that the community may have. And I'll turn it back over to you to get it going.
Thank you, Supervisor. If you've joined us on this Zoom and would like to pose a question for any of the panelists that are sitting here before you in front of their screens, please feel free to raise your hand on the raise hand functions and we will call on you. You're also invited to post your question in the Q&A box up at the top, or at least up at the top on my iPad. I don't know where it is on your screen if you have a CPU. You're also invited to email any questions and comments as before to temporaryshelters@sonoma-county.org. Temporary shelters, which is one word, at sonoma-county.org. Going to be taking questions and comments in a few minutes, but first passing it over to Dave Kiff, our Homeless Services Division Director, for a presentation. Dave.
Hi there, and thank you all for being here. Thank you, Supervisor Gore, Supervisor Coursey. I'll just speak briefly, just a little further update about what's going on at the emergency shelter right now. As noted, we have about a little bit more than 70 people right now. We did take some additional intakes just late last week and today, and these are folks who came from an encampment just south of Santa Rosa, who a number of whom were formerly on the trail. So we're still looking for folks who were on the trail and using this as an opportunity to house those, get those folks into good housing and good supportive services. I think I'm anxious to hear and to listen to what folks have to say, but I do think the shelter site has kind of reached its rhythm. It's when you're inside the shelter site, it's very calm, not chaotic at all. There's a lot of, again, relaxed spaces, pleasant smiles, people getting good care, getting good food, and hopefully getting ready for their next and long-term housing. And I'll stop there and again, welcome comments and hopefully answer some questions.
Dave, if I may, before we get into everyone else, I want to see if you can just forward a couple thoughts on some of the things that have come up in the last meeting and in some of the emails. One of those is individuals asking about buildup of trash, basically the ripple of activity around the site. So I wanted to see if you could, to the best of your ability, talk about any interactions we've had with neighbors or with the police, or even some of the things that we've seen come in with pictures behind them about ancillary activities in and around that have caused concern, and see if you can let us know what's real and what's maybe something we still need to look into.
So I did appreciate the folks who sent along pictures last time, 2 weeks ago. I did follow up with the city of Santa Rosa. They were aware of that already. Some of that was on private property. And I know they did a cleanup activity that, and folks can correct me if I'm wrong, but when I'm by there now, I don't see that same trash. I did see a gentleman with a number of belongings on Friday evening when I drove over there on County Center Drive, but I didn't see the same compilation of trash that I've seen before. We do go out and work on the trash situation at least once a week around the encampment. Again, we kind of stick around Paulin Creek there and the parkway right there, as well as that stretch of Admin Drive from Mendocino to County Center. So I was by there just about 20 minutes ago, and it still looked pretty tidy from last week.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I know we're going to get some questions, and I saw one pop up right into the Q&A regarding what's going on over at the Joe Rodetta Trail. There's been some recent announcements about it. So I'm going to right now, though, pass it over to, first of all, see if Tina Rivera, if you as the Director of Health want to make any remarks, and then reminder, I'll pass it over to Paul Gullickson to kind of facilitate a little bit of the Q&A. But Paul, if we can, let's make sure we try to bifurcate the two issues. One is obviously in our presentations we're focusing on the impact around the site, and the other issue is in these webinars we have individuals who ask us about the trail. So maybe we could start with, after Tina's comments, an update over at the trail, and then go back to the site itself. Thank you, Tina.
Hi. I just wanted to say thank you to the individuals who are living at the site. And also I wanted to thank our provider and as well as our county teams for just the collaboration and the partnership. Our focus, of course, is ensuring that individuals have housing plans and care plans. And I just wanted to thank the individuals there for their motivation to work with the teams to develop these housing plans and these care plans so that they can move to the next phase of housing. So I just wanted to say thank you. Thank you for the great job that you're doing yourselves to improve your quality of life. So I just wanted to give a shout out to the residents who are staying there.
Thank you, Tina. Reminder that this webinar is being recorded. We will post it on the county's Facebook page, YouTube channel, English and Spanish, so you can share it with others. Then, as before, it'll also be posted onto our homeless website that I mentioned beforehand. So, Paul, I'm going to pass it over to you.
Yeah, just want
Communications Manager.
thank you, Supervisor Gore. I just want to remind everybody that if you do have a question or a comment for our panel today, just go ahead and raise your hand, hit the raise hand function, and I will call on you and unmute you, and you can ask your question or make your comment in person, or go ahead and put it in the Q&A area. As you mentioned, Supervisor Gore, one person asked about he or she says she's just got off the train in downtown Santa Rosa. There are some, I think they're referring to some homeless setting up shop there on Creek Trail, Joe Rodota intersection, I think right maybe underneath the highway there. Curious if any of these folks have returned after a stop at the sanctioned camp, or if they might be some space to welcome them there. Dave, do you want to take a crack at that one?
I know Nasim answered it too in the text there. Our teams, our heart team. Actually, why don't I hand it over to James? James knows this better than I do, because you're here, James.
James Alexander, you want to take it?
I am sorry for that, Dave. I was looking at the text. I didn't see the question.
Oh, it's about kind of what when folks do see folks on the trail right now, what's our interaction with the team, with those folks, with our heart team members?
Excellent. Thank you, Dave. Good question. So we go out daily and we have interaction with whoever is on the trail and whoever needs services. We make the offers of services to those individuals. And we do have capacity to move those individuals. So when they accept our services, our teams transport the individuals to our ESS site, and we continue thereupon them entering the site to facilitate case management, things of that nature. So thank you for that question.
Just to follow up on this, a reminder to everybody, we did, as a Board of Supervisors, review the updated camping or limitations to camping ordinance. And we did pass it. And I was going to see Dave or Matt Lilligren or Tina or somebody would appreciate it if you could give an update on that. And then Supervisor Coursey or anybody else, maybe an update on how we're managing. I know there was an article written about the trail, but managing that non-camping area at the trail, but even others. Dave, was that better for you or Matt on the ordinance?
That's a great Matt question.
Okay. Matt?
So the ordinance was adopted by the board on April 18th, so it will become effective on May 18th, at which point the camping, the Joe Rodota Trail, actually any Sonoma County regional parks, will be one of the 9 designated areas where camping is prohibited throughout the county. And so then that prohibition for that area will take place effective May 18th.
I can add a little bit, James.
Yep.
Was out with folks from parks on Thursday afternoon when the trail first opened. I rode my bicycle down the length of the trail on Saturday, and my staff were out today. The trail's being patrolled on a regular basis by regional parks rangers. It's posted with notices of no camping. There's been some landscape improvements to discourage camping along the trail. I think this is a situation where it's gonna be a daily job of our staff, our rangers, to keep the trail clear of campers and let people know that camping in public parks is not allowed, whether now or when the new ordinance comes into effect. You can correct me if I'm wrong on that, Matt. But what I saw over the weekend, what Sean saw out there today, indicates that that camping is not coming back, at least not yet.
Thank you, sir.
Well, that leads to that addressed another question we got from one that was emailed into us in advance from Michelle. She asked the simple question: how long is the shelter area going to last? And she comes at it from a different perspective. She says, I live behind the trail and I'm concerned once this program ends, we will just have another nightmare here of encampments along the trail. Dave, do you want to talk about the timeline for the shelter site?
Sure. The permit that the shelter has, it's kind of a joint permit between the County of Sonoma and the City of Santa Rosa, especially the fire department. It has a 6-month life. So our intention is to be prepared to have another option by the time 6 months runs out. Earlier than that, obviously, we'll have a conversation. Tina and I will have a conversation with the board about what could be next steps. But this shelter site it has a life through September 23rd, roughly, because we started on March 23rd. As to what happens in the neighborhood, I mean, I observe the neighborhood pretty closely. I don't know that things will be different from the way it was, say, 6 months ago to 6 months in advance. I'm certainly cognizant of Michelle's concern as she notes that, but we still will work hard to house people. We still will work hard to enforce our codes. We still will work hard to give people the right services so they can stay in housing, especially those who are completely unhoused and on related trails.
Tina, did you have a thought?
Yeah, I just wanted to share a little bit more information that the neighborhood will soon see community volunteers in teal colored shirts, and they'll be picking up trash in the neighborhood. So I wanted to provide that information, but also there are QR codes that are posted outside the fencing that the community or anyone can access. And these QR codes will have census data of how many individuals are residing inside the shelter, successful exits to the next phase of housing are posted, you can access via this QR code, and how many individuals are gaining employment. You'll be able to also see this information. And then also, if you would like to donate any items, the QR code will take you to a form, and then you can schedule pickups. So I just wanted to mention that information.
As we talk about fences and neighborhoods, let's all be cognizant that there's two different questions being asked here. One by people who live near the trail, and others by people who live near the shelter. Tina, I understood you're talking about the shelter, but the earlier question was from somebody who lived near the trail.
Yeah. So the QR codes are on the fencing around the shelter site itself, just to clarify.
That's correct. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank
So
Well, then I misanswered too. I was thinking it was more about the shelter site. So the trail site, however, as Matt Lilligren noted, after May 18th, camping of any type is prohibited. So our park rangers our HEART team will continue to be will enforce the ordinance, which includes allowing or not allowing that those locations to repopulate.
Thank you all for clarifying that. I think that's helpful.
Paul, do we have any other questions? I don't.
We
see
don't have any of the
Q&A
questions and no
here.
raised hands at this time. So
Okay. Well, why don't we just real quickly? We can also see the list of participants. I see. Want to thank Michelle Patino. You're listed 3 times here, so you can answer 3 times for every response. But that means you're covered. Appreciate you and appreciate everybody. I see one which is Michael Titone with a hand raised, and anybody else who has a comment or a question, please raise your hands on that. We'll get to you, and we'll make best use of people's time. And if we don't have questions, we'll end and then continue to do the work during the week. So Paul, do you want to call on who's got their hand raised, and then whoever's next?
yeah, Michael, if you want to go ahead and ask your question or make your comment.
Hi there. I just wanted to clarify if the new ordinance isn't, it's not in effect until May 18th, and even regardless of when it goes in effect, I was just speaking to a guy on Joe Rodota Trail who said that the Rangers were forcing him to move and he wasn't being offered any place to go. He asked, where can I go? And was told, not here. And so I wanted to check if that is in line with policies as stated, or if people who do want a placement are supposed to be offered a place to go before they're told that they have to move.
Thanks for the question. I saw James Alexander. Maybe you're going to lean in. I saw you unmuted.
Yes, thank you, Supervisor Gore. So Michael, we actually have teams go out daily talking to everyone on the trail, and we have our meetings with our partners. The Rangers are definitely advising people to talk to the HEART team to get offered services. We have capacity, not just at our tent sites, but we have capacity at other locations also. So any individual would be offered services.
I appreciate that, James. So I think the point is that from up and down this organization, the message, it's not only the message, it's the reality. We have to provide options for individuals on the trail. So that's a reality that we live with. So Michael, if you hear anything different when you're talking to somebody, please put them in touch with our folks. Also, maybe just a reminder, James or Dave or somebody, can you put whatever, either speak to it or put it in the chat, whatever the best contact is for anybody who wants to get in touch with the HEART team or any of these other service providers?
Yes, thank you.
So you can put it into the chat, or you want to just mention that the whatever number they can call to get in touch with the HEART team, or email. Your call.
Yeah, I'll actually put my my own email in the chat.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you. Real quickly though, Dave, what is, first of all, James, appreciate that you're putting your own contact in, but what is the normal protocol for folks to call anywhere in this county if they want to notice about an encampment or inquire about it or get in touch with the right service desk at County of Sonoma?
Well, they have a number of options. They can email me, James, or Nasim. And then I think as Nasim just posted in the chat, there's a 707-565-1302, 707-565-1302. We also have an email that goes to our entire team called Solve Homelessness at sonoma-county.org. Solve Homelessness at sonoma-county.org. Thank you, Nasim.
I think that's helpful. I think one other request is we tell a lot of folks in the community to use 211, which is a simple number to remember instead of 911, non-emergency 211. I don't know if we have already, but if we have not, let's make sure that we advise 211 in whatever network possible needed to put that kind of that kind of query to those, link it to that number in that email.
It's not as direct, but it will get you to one of those other places, and it's easier to remember.
Supervisor Gore, we have one more, a hand raised.
Go for it.
Alan, do you want to go ahead and ask your question?
Yes, my question is regarding the ending date of the shelter at the county campus of September 23rd. The question is, are you looking at other sites, and have you thought about which ones they might be? But another point I want to make is that I understand that there's a 15-acre facility up on 2254 Ordnance Way that it's not in use at this moment, and it hasn't been for some time. Has up to 250 beds available. And it's also a combination, has some free land up there for those that don't want to be inside. Have you considered this in part of your preparation for the shelter ending? And also ask the same question with regard to the Sonoma County Probation Department's camp. I believe that's in Forestville that has another 24 beds available. Can you speak to either one of those?
Thank you for the question, and I can speak to that to the extent that we're casting a wide net. We are, and those locations that you mentioned are good candidates for being within the net. And I really appreciate the suggestions.
Yeah, there's quite a few of these. There's some other facilities as well, but obviously all of those are going to be reviewed and come back to our board. And the commitment is to, we got into this by having to take emergency action. Our goal is not to do that again, is to notice, give people an opportunity and work through these issues. Thank you very much. I see there's another question from somebody that talked about saying they live by this shelter, live by the county complex, continually have a gentleman down in a low spot, dry spot on the creek doing drugs. He's not there long, so calling anyone is not helping since he will be gone by the next time we get there. Not usual behavior. I'm not sure what I can do. Thank you. Dave or others, you want to talk about? I know there was I didn't verify that whether it was real or not, but there was also an email that came in with pictures of somebody using down in Pollen Creek, and I think there's this question of what are we tracking, what are we looking at, what's the right way to do that with the police, and then also, there's also this part of is it really people from the camp or spillover from the camp? But no matter what, I think our goal is, as being on the campus, to work with police to make sure that if there's ever anything that comes up, I think it needs to be reported. So I'll start with the end of that question to the individual and say, as much as you say that it seems like it's too quick to be reportable, I actually would greatly disagree with that. I think every time there's a notice, it's important to have that in the log and to track, because if anybody's going to follow up on any kind of illicit behavior, they're going to need to have a history of it being there. I've done the same as a citizen, not just as a county supervisor. Dave, do you want to jump in, or anybody else on this?
Yeah, Supervisor, you answered that question well. I think that the folks can and should send in information real time when they're made aware of it. They should also contact the Santa Rosa Police Department if they see illegal activity. But we follow up too. If a person is shown to be doing anything illegal on private or public property outside of the encampment, and they're a tenant of our encampment, they have good neighbor rules they're supposed to follow, and one of them is to not do illegal things in the surrounding neighborhood. So we're aware of that, and we do refer that along.
In your dream.
The person in the name of Alan, they may want to be muted or move back. Anyway, we did follow up on this one individual, and I appreciate the folks who sent along the information. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, there was a response saying thank you for the engagement. So I want to thank you for calling in. As a neighbor, that's exactly what we want to do. No issue, big or small, should be addressed. Others, do we have others?
No other
No?
hands raised or questions at this time, Supervisor Gore.
Well, we're gonna give anybody about, I'm just gonna do some final comments, but give anybody about a minute to raise your hand or put something in the chat if you'd like to follow up on it. Want to pass it over to my colleague, Supervisor Coursey. Any final thoughts as we're waiting to see if anybody raises their hand or sign it off for today?
Thanks, James. I want to thank everybody for the questions. I want to thank people for connecting here. The small number of questions and issues doesn't mean that we have solved the problem of homelessness, obviously, but it's gratifying to not have the kind of chaos or whatever the thoughts were when we announced that we were going to do this. We're doing everything we can. I know our staff is bending over backwards to make sure that this works correctly. We are committed to that. We want to know if and when things go wrong, because the intent is to fix things if they're broken and to do this right. So appreciate the participation.
Thank you, Supervisor. Not going to add any more except to say that our plan is to continue to do these, but if they are not robust with questions and answers, then we're going to move to normal operations. But having said that, our goal is to continue to bring these resources to the table and continue to have this conversation. So I have nothing else to add except just to say I want to thank the crew that put this together. I want to thank Julie, our Spanish interpreter. Muchas gracias, Julie. Siempre un gusto verte en pantalla. And lastly, I'd like to remind everyone that all this information is included, as are the other previous recordings in the webinars and FAQs, frequently asked questions, on the site and the page. Signing off by just putting one final bit of thanks to Jasmine Woodino for leading an effort out of Supervisors Coursey's office for us to donate goods from the county family to the individuals who were trying to help get back on their feet. I think it's important that we don't just believe in systems to fix problems, but in relationships and personal touches. So Jasmine, thank you for that. And Sean as well from District 3. Thank you, Supervisor. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Tina and Dave, Matt, and everybody else. Have a good evening.